everyone. Welcome to another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies.
Yeah, my throat's a little dead today, so I'm gonna do the best I can with that. So much to talk about today, so much to get into today. We got some Black Widow news. We got some Kang news with Jonathan Majors. We got some Jason Momoa backing up Ray Fisher. Controversy news for WB and DC, and then our main topic, getting into the Mandalorian, son. The Mandalorian Season 2 trailer rolled up in here. A lot to talk about in that, and then maybe get into a little bit of the controversy around the Mandalorian. All of that happening today here on the Geek Buddies. I am one of your hosts, the outlaw John Rocha.
I am Michael Vogel.
And this is Shannon McClung.
You guys know us by now, and for those of you who are new, thank you so much for taking a chance on us downloading us on the podcast feed, which you can find separately from the Outlaw Nation podcast feed. Geek Buddies doing its own thing, or you watching us here on the YouTube channel, on the Outlaw Nation YouTube channel. Really appreciate you all taking a chance and giving us a view as well. For those of you who are returning, thanks so much for coming back. You know how this show works, so let's talk to the new people. For you newbies, each of us takes a geek news item and talks about it amongst ourselves. So 3 geek news items. We take a little bit of a break for our sponsor and then jump into our main topic. So there'll be about a 5-second break for those of you who are watching on YouTube. For those of you who are listening to us on the iTunes or wherever you download podcasts, it'll be just a little bit longer, and then we'll be back with our break. So
a 5-second musical interlude, you might say.
You might say. Music.
I mean, it's an interlude. I don't know if we're going to call it musical.
I know.
How dare you?
I mean, last I checked, you weren't in Brigadoon. All right, so let's move on to the first topic, and that is Black Widow and Soul. This all got released here. We're getting this from Deadline. Shout out to Anthony D'Alessandro there. Apparently, Warner Brothers, maybe kind of like what happened with Tenet and the second week box office being as catastrophically bad as it was, in my opinion. Maybe this influenced Disney moving Black Widow, which is the announcement now. They're pondering a move for Black Widow off its November 6th date, and it could easily move it to Marvel's The Eternals release date of February 12th as next year. And then there was loose talk, apparently. You can't trust that loose talk, but sometimes you never know. That loose talk that Soul would be going to Disney Plus, and their Deadline has reported that a Disney insider disputed the claims that Soul was moving to Disney Plus. But, dispute, not dispute. Sometimes it just kind of works out that way, one way or the other. So we know studios want to control who has the information about their films being moved or their films being released on streaming service, especially so much nowadays. We've seen Warner Bros. Already come out and say that they weren't going to release, or they were threatening to not release totals for Tenet, box office totals anymore for Tenet. So studios are definitely scrambling, trying to make something out of all these broken eggs. But the omelet so far is not tasting so good. Gentlemen, I put it to you, Vogel. Let's go to you first, being an executive here. This is not a surprise, and please feel free to take a victory dance because you predicted this possibility about Soul.
Well, I didn't predict the possibility about Soul. I did predict that Black Widow was probably going to move.
The Black Widow thing. I apologize. Yeah.
I did predict that Black Widow was probably going to move, which is actually, as we've said every time that we've talked about this, bigger than just a regular movie moving, because Black Widow moving means the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe is moving. Yeah. So, as we've talked about, DC has actually had a great couple weeks, month in this quarantine with DC Fandom, and they've generated a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement about their stuff, and they're really picking up a lot of the slack that Marvel is missing, because we've gone through kind of a Marvel dry spell this year. Because Black Widow didn't come out when it was slated to come out, which would have led had Black Widow come out, had we not been living in this the bad timeline that we're all currently living in, Black Widow would have come out, there would have been an end credits teaser, we would have had a ton to talk about and discuss, and we would have been really excited, and we'd be gearing up for Eternals right now. We'd be back in Marvel, and as it is, we're just sort of waiting for this next phase to start, and the longer they push it, the longer that we are waiting. So that's frustrating. It did seem like that. I mean, I think you are absolutely right. Everybody was hoping that Christopher Nolan more than anybody, but everybody was hoping that Tenet was going to be that, hey guys, the movies are back.
Yeah.
And clearly, based on the box office and the fact that some of us are living in cities where we can't go to the movies are actually not back. And even in the places where they are back, many people are still reluctant to go. Yeah. So the box office, even taking into account movies being closed, limited seating and everything else, the box office is not there. Right. People have a lot more on their minds at the moment, and just that this is not something that's happening. So the studios are responding to that and kind of just kicking everything down the curb. And so we will see what happens. I'm a little unsure about the Soul part of it all. Not because Disney said no, or that's unsubstantiated, but more that, like we talked about with Onward, for example, Onward had its moment. It got released.
Yeah.
It had a big opening weekend. It made a certain amount of money. Yeah. And by the time everything shut down, nobody was going to go to the movies anyway. It just made sense. Let's just kick this over, sell it on VOD for a couple weeks, and then drop it onto Disney Plus.
Right.
With Mulan, there was a premiere access that Bob Chapek said they were not going to repeat that formula. We'll see if that holds true or not. Right. And I just think with a big Pixar release like Soul, that ostensibly looks good. We haven't heard any rumors that it's a dud. It's not like another Good Dinosaur. Right. I just can't believe that they would just say, screw it. It's one of Disney's 4 big buckets. You got Marvel, you got Star Wars, you got Disney, you got Pixar. I don't know that you would take a Pixar movie and be like, let's just drop it on Disney Plus. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be surprised if that one happened. I was not surprised that Black Widow moved. I would be surprised about Soul.
Okay, what do you think, Shan?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing to the Black Widow of it all, for Marvel, this might actually be a good thing because stuff is just now getting back into production. Like I believe filming on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier just resumed in Atlanta, and originally that was supposed to come out in August or September, I think. Filming has resumed on Shang-Chi in Australia, so a couple extra months might help them be a little more prepared for the release schedule shift that is happening, because they have not started shooting Spider-Man 3. Tom Holland is in Germany, I believe, doing Uncharted. So might actually be a good thing. I was one of the people that drove down out of Los Angeles County to go see Tenet in a theater, and I was one of 3 people, and I was the only one by the end of the movie. Like the 2 people left about half an hour before the movie ended. But yeah, I mean, it's
too loud. It's too loud.
It did happen. It was an older couple.
Of course.
It was an older couple, and it is a very long and somewhat confusing movie. But even just walking into the theater, there was walking in and walking out. There was nobody. Yeah. And I mean, there were signs, pasted all over the place saying, this is what we're doing to keep you safe right now. Yeah. All of the employees were social distance. They were wearing masks. There were alterations to what you could get. Right. So it doesn't surprise me that people have not rushed back to the theaters. Now, in terms of Soul going to Disney Plus, I'm with Mike. I mean, they're not going to give that away for free. Right. And, whether or not they follow the Mulan route and they try to get $30 from you, again, the majority of the audience would have been families. So $30 is actually, I think, a deal. But who knows? I mean, as everything is certain until it isn't. Bob Chapek saying what we did with Mulan, we're not going to do that again. Also, they've not released those numbers either, right? I mean, I've read that they were happy, but they've not actually released the figures, what went along with Mulan.
Well, not to the breakdown of who got what. There's rumors that Nolan got a separate take on this whole situation as well. So but maybe that was his impetus to push this thing out, because he had a financial benefit beyond the normal financial benefit of a director to make sure this movie comes out and try to recoup some of that money, or try to get some of that money he wanted to make. I think you make an excellent point, both of you, about Soul. Certainly Soul is one of those ones that Disney, and we know from people we know, that there was more marketing budget set aside for Soul. They felt like Soul was the one more than Onward that was going to be their Oscar play. And so dropping it now on Disney Plus, kind of, I don't know, it does still keep it in contention, but I think any Oscar you get during this year has a massive asterisk next to it, in my opinion. So why not wait till next year? Drop it next year when things maybe are a little bit slowly back to normal and people are coming to the theaters again. Then you get, kind of a legitimate campaign for Soul heading towards the Oscar. It's an animated film. It's already done. There's no rush to put it out. Why would you put it out? To me, that doesn't make any sense. And why would you put it on Disney Plus? That's kind of wasted effort all around. To see what for the return you're going to get. And according to a recent NRG poll, 51% of moviegoers are comfortable or somewhat comfortable about returning to the theater during the pandemic, a number that has spiked from 20 to 30% in recent weeks. but 49% are still uncomfortable. That's a massive number, 49%. So,
and actually,
it's dangerous. Hold on, let me finish, Mike. It's dangerous all around, I think, for theaters and for studios and for everybody involved in this to keep pushing this narrative that somehow they're going to start dropping these. They're coming. It's coming. It's coming. I think it's just so much more smarter to go, look, 2020 is a wash. Let's all start focusing on 2021. Let's give people something to look forward to. Let's restart the marketing campaigns. Let's all do this. This almost pig-headed, stubborn desire to release these movies is equivalent to what we're seeing in college football, these pig-headed desires of these colleges to force their players. And some of the players want to play, some of them don't, but to force these players to play these games while there's like high spikes of contact rate amongst the college students on the campus for COVID. So it's just, it doesn't make sense to me all around. So yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I think, it brings up the point though, like, I mean, key difference between releasing a movie and a sporting event is the actors on the movie aren't at risk, so you don't have an issue there. And so, Shannon, to your point, though,
they're risk of losing money for residuals. That's sure.
Sure. But like I'm saying, that, like, right, what I'm saying is there's no physical risk into. Yeah. So, Shannon, I mean, granted, you were saying there was nobody else in the movie theater, so I'm sure you felt fine. But like, how was the movie going experience for you? I mean, would you have been more nervous had it been more crowded, or given the space between seats? Like, what was your experience at the theater?
So driving down, I had about a 90-minute drive. I went down to Oceanside, which is in San Diego County. There were kind of like half-hour staggered screenings. I think Tenet was playing on 4 or 5 screens. But basically, when I left my home, I was online looking at how many seats there were, because they had like the one sort of pseudo IMAX theater, and then they had their regular theaters. And I gave myself enough time to where I'm like, hey, the 11 a.m., it's getting a little crowded for my taste. I'm going to go to the next one where there's only 2 or 3 people. The way that you were able to pick your seats, because there were no it was just the kiosks. Yeah. You put how many seats you want, and in my case it was 1, and they had a bunch of seats on the end and then a bunch of seats in the middle, but there were the social distancing was already applied into the algorithm. Like I couldn't pick certain seats, and there was sort of automatic spacing done. It was lovely being back in a theater. It was really, really nice. At the same time, about halfway through, and the 2 older people that were in the movie, I mean, they were 9 rows away. They were nowhere near me. Once the sort of afterglow of having my popcorn and having my soda, once that kind of wore off, I put my mask back on, because I was like, you know what, there's no one else around, but this just, this is making me feel more comfortable.
Right.
I would do it again if something else came out, but I would also be as precautious. I would be watching how many people are in the theater. And truth be told, it was a 90-minute drive. I got nothing else to do. If all the screenings suddenly filled up, I would have gone home. Like I was like, this is not worth risking your life.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that is, I mean, we think of studios as just these giant, like, Scrooge McDuck money bins, and they're just like the rich people. But a studio is dealing with, on a much different scale, the same issue that any business is dealing with right now. I mean, it's not that they're just like, well, let's get these movies. Like, they've got to get these movies out to get some level of income so they can continue making the movies. And so they're dealing with the same thing everyone else is. And it's the thing that we're all living with right now, which is, safety versus the economy, and safety versus the economy. So we'll see what happens. I think, John, you may end up being right, just in the nature of like, it's just what happens. Like, they might just keep pushing these things, and every movie we're already up to like November, December. We're going to roll right into the new year anyways. So at this point, does that extra month even make a difference? Right. We might just be like, that things are starting in 2021. So we'll see.
Yeah, I just don't see the point of it, to be honest with you. It seems stubborn. And I get, like Michael said, these are businesses. Yeah, having met people work in studios, and certainly, Michael, you have, they're all part of a machine trying to get to something, trying to get to a goal, because everybody's jobs depend on it. We've seen massive layoffs, massive furloughs all across the industry. So as they push things to the end of the year, if they do that, a lot of jobs will be lost. A lot of jobs here in this LA market will be lost. So it can get a bit hairy out here. So you wonder where the end result is of this, or they're just going to push through and just keep releasing. That's the other thing. That's the other part of this equation. I know we need to move on, but that's the other part of this equation. No studios want to just dump their movies to push it forward and force people and make people feel like they could come back to this if they wanted to. It's there and just lose money. No studio wants to do that either. So they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because, it's like anything else. If you just drop enough stuff, then eventually people start to feel a consistency here, and then they start to take more chances to go out to go see these movies. But then these other movies lose money that you were dropping in an effort to try to get to that point where you start to make some profit. And those studios want to do that. So it's a dangerous plan all around. So we'll see what happens. But we'll keep tabs on it. We'll find out. I'm certainly with Soul. I don't think it'll drop to Disney Plus, but then again, hell, who predicted whatever's happening this year? So it's crazy. All right, who's got next?
All right, so in the ongoing battle between Warner Brothers and Ray Fisher, he now has a very public ally in his Justice League co-star, Jason Momoa. Yeah. He just posted a couple of days ago on Instagram, this is a quote, "This shit has to stop and needs to be looked at. Ray Fisher and everyone else who experienced what happened under the watch of Warner Brothers needs proper investigation. I just think it's fucked up that people released a fake Frosty announcement without my permission to try to distract from Ray Fisher speaking up about the shitty way we were treated on Justice League reshoots. Yeah. Serious stuff went down. It needs to be investigated and people need to be held accountable." So what he's referring to is a couple weeks back that Warner Brothers released an announcement that Jason Momoa was going to be playing Frosty the Snowman in a CGI live action hybrid, I believe. But that was also right after Ray Fisher had said something else online. So we're going back and forth. Ray Fisher initially talked about the gross and abusive way that they were treated on set by Joss Whedon and how it was enabled in many ways by Jeff Johns and John Berg. Warner Brothers announced an independent investigator. They came back and said Ray Fisher hasn't really spoke to him. He's not cooperating. Ray Fisher came back and said, I did speak with them. My team ended the interview early. I wasn't willing to continue the interview without my team getting involved. Mm-hmm. And now Jason Momoa has weighed in. And it's curious that none of the other cast, they haven't come in on Ray Fisher's side, but they certainly haven't come over on Warner Brothers' side. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out, because it seems like it is just getting more and more contentious. But what do you guys think?
Johnny?
I'm 1,000% behind Ray Fisher on this situation. I think there's just too much smoke. There's too much smoke. Having Momoa step forward and say, hey, this announcement, because this is something that he was going to do with Jeff Johns, who was the person at the center of this argument from Ray Fisher, or one of the people at the center of this argument, Ray Fisher. That's a strong statement of support. And more and more people are. Kiersey Clements did a hashtag I stand with Ray Fisher, an actress of color there supporting a fellow actor of color. So these are these things that are slowly building up steam. And I think Momoa's statement that some shit really went down on this set that people need to talk about, he's not just saying, I stand with Ray Fisher and I believe. He's saying, oh yeah, I saw this crap too, and so that's another stronger statement. And of course, actor of color himself, Jason Momoa. So there's more here to explore, more here to discover, and I'm not surprised that a studio is using its legal department to try to strong arm a new young actor who hasn't, really kind of, done a bunch of other things to have some cachet to try to intimidate him. But I love that Ray Fisher's out here, calling him out, and WB is getting called out all over the place. And Ray's also exposing some of the legal things that these studios do. They surprise you with this other person who's on the line that you didn't know about to try to throw you off, and they try to take advantage. These lawyers are paid buku ducats to try to intimidate and scare and twist and manipulate you, especially in the deposition. So I'm not surprised by this. And I give a lot of kudos to Ray Fisher for being smart enough not to fall into their traps and to call them out publicly, especially at the time when people are listening. People are listening to actors of color calling out this kind of stuff. I am a little bit like, why isn't Ben saying anything? Why isn't Cavill saying anything? Gal Gadot saying anything? I think she did say that she stands with Ray Fisher. I'm not sure though. But why aren't they calling out? Maybe it's not their fight to have. Maybe they didn't see anything. But I like that this is slowly building up steam, and he's calling the studio out. And the end result, we'll see what the end result is, because you can mirror this with what John Boyega did with Star Wars in that British GQ. More and more there is this. Don't give me videos. Don't give me these plastic statements. Don't give me these social media PR statements about how you support and blah, blah, blah. If your actions don't support your desire to look good, then it's all bullshit. And I love that Fisher is calling him out on it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously something went down. I mean, even the actors who have not spoken out for Ray Fisher or against Joss Whedon have all made it really clear that they're very much on Zack Snyder's side. Like, my opinions of Zack Snyder's movies, my subjective opinions about them aside, the actors who worked with him clearly seem to be on Team Snyder in this case. And I think you're right. I think that, could this combine with the John Boyega stuff that we talked about last week? I mean, there is a shift in how things work because of social media, because of the social climate that we live in right now. The old rules are starting to apply less. Like, I'm actually not surprised that the others haven't spoken out. That's what's normal. That's how Hollywood always works. I mean, I know we talked about this last week, John, I think you said that with Daisy Ridley coming out about the Obi-Wan stuff and Oscar Isaac, but if you really look at it, Oscar Isaac and Daisy Ridley did the subtle shade that actors would normally do. They didn't come out and say, this is why Disney and Star Wars and Lucas are fucked up. They kind of said, oh, I would have preferred this. This would have been great. We really would have loved to go in this direction. Right. But they said all the words and the phrases in the right way that, like, no one's going to really come after you. John Boyega kind of came out strong, and Ray Fisher obviously did the same thing here. And I think it's great that Momoa is standing up for him. I think it's great that Momoa is like, it's great that we have these actors who are popular enough, using Momoa as an example. Like, to your point, Ray Fisher is sort of up and coming still. And it's super brave of him to stand up the way he did against Joss Whedon and against Warner Brothers, and to have Jason Momoa, who I would say is probably a little bit higher up the Hollywood food chain than Ray Fisher is, kind of putting his weight behind him, I think is great. I think more people should do that.
Why do you think they're defending Jeff Johns, Mike? I mean, once again, one of the key elements of this show is that you have had executive experience. You've been an executive. You still are working to a certain degree, I think, almost as a pseudo executive with some of these projects you're on. What do you accredit to them defending Jeff Johns? What is that all about? Do you think that they've got a bunch of projects? Do they have this huge contract with him that they don't want to pay him out? Like, what do you think the situation is here that they just won't go, look, clearly this is some terrible stuff. We're totally going to investigate with an independent investigator that doesn't just have to report to us, which is what Ray Fisher is claiming, that that investigator is only reporting to Warner Brothers and nobody else, and is not following up with other witnesses. That's another thing he said, that this investigator has ignored other witnesses who are corroborating Ray Fisher's statements about what they saw on set. So what do you think is happening here? Is this a circle of wagons type of thing? Because this seems like bad PR, or do they think nobody gives a crap outside our LA bubble?
The answer to everything you said is yes.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that in general, Hollywood does believe that outside of the Hollywood bubble, most people don't care. And I think they're not wrong. I mean, in the world that we live in right now, our job on this show is to care about this stuff. And we do, and we work here, and we live in LA, and we work in the industry. And everyone who's listening to us, no matter where you are, you clearly love this industry. You love movies. You follow this stuff. So we all care. And I mean, we as the collective, all of us Geek Buddies who are all listening to this right now. But I think that for a lot of people in an election year where it's a global pandemic and we have systemic racism and police brutality and everything is on fire, Joss Whedon was an asshole. Who cares? I think that there is that element to it. I think also there is a circle of wagons mentality. I think a studio's primary function is to protect the studio, and the executives working at that studio, if they were acting inappropriately, the first thing you do is like, can we just cover this up and make it go away? And sometimes it becomes a big enough issue that you cannot. Right. I mean, much worse example and much different example, but think about like Harvey Weinstein for however many years, did horrible. And granted, he was the head, but I think that studios' natural inclination, when you have private investigators or HR doing an investigation, like anyone who works for a big company knows that HR's job although it should be to protect the individual, is really more to protect the company.
1,000%.
And so we all know that. Anyone who's dealt with HR, you're like, are you on my side?
You don't sound like you're on my side.
I'm really confused here.
Yeah.
So I think that's all true. I think also admitting that Jon Zerberg acted inappropriately also implies that the studio itself acted inappropriately. Yeah. So I think their preference would be, well, let's just dump all this on Joss Whedon. Like, let's just blame Joss for everything, and then we can distance ourselves from that, and then we're clear. But Ray Fisher and Momoa, like, everyone's kind of coming and be like, no, this is why this was okay. This was why this was allowed. And nothing that they have said, that Ray Fisher has said, or that Momoa is corroborating, like, sounds out of the realm of how Hollywood works. I mean, I think that a lot of people on the executive side or the studio side, like actors, as much as actors are the face of Hollywood and actors get to a certain point of success and clout that they can do things that they want to do, the actors are, in a lot of ways, especially when you're just first starting out, you're the expendable one, or you're the one whose opinion matters less on the set. And that's frustrating. It's hard. I mean, Shannon can speak to that, of course. So I think that the fact that they're standing out is really good. And I think that the studios are trying to catch up and figure out what to do, because actors don't usually do this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the rule book that they have on how to deal with these things is like, they're flipping through it and they're like, fuck. Right. What Aquaman just said what do we do? I don't know. It's Aquaman.
I mean, and a more powerful ally Ray Fisher couldn't have. I mean, Jason Momoa, he is the lead of the most successful movie in the DCEU. So, I mean, all it would take is Gal Gadot coming on publicly on his side as well. And those are your Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa. They are the two beacons of DC right now. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. And who knows if we'll ever actually find out what went down.
Yeah, and it's mind-bending to think about the fact this is all happening while he's actually shooting something for an extension of WB and HBO Max. So it's kind of crazy to see all of this, all these machinations going on while he's also still having something to do with this Justice League from Zack Snyder that's coming out. So keep tabs on it. All right, we'll see what happens. But I'm proud of people who are stepping up once and for all and calling these studios out, and calling these people out for plastic statements if you're not going to back it up with actions. All right, what's our next thing?
All right, so this is really exciting. As we were saying, we are going through a huge Marvel dry spell right now that, with Black Widow moving, is just making the dry spell even longer. But we did get some really exciting Marvel casting news that's pretty big. The Marvel and Disney have announced that Jonathan Majors, who most of us now know as the lead in Lovecraft Country on HBO Max, I guess, HBO. Is joining the cast of Peyton Reed's Ant-Man 3 as Kang the Conqueror. Right. And for those that don't know, Kang the Conqueror, pretty big deal. He is the Avengers time-traveling villain of the Marvel Universe who fucks with everybody by fucking with the time stream. And him coming in to Ant-Man 3 is not just big news for Ant-Man 3, but it's also really big news for the Marvel Universe, because he is much more in line with the Lokis and the Thanoses of the Marvel Universe than like a one-off villain. Right. And Kang coming in doesn't just mean that Ant-Man 3 is going to be a much bigger movie in scope, but it means, and there's a couple different ways it could go, that Kang can really open things up. As everybody who's a Marvel fan knows, Avengers Endgame obviously opened things up into the world of time travel through the quantum realm, which came out of Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Right. And so Kang kind of being the time traveling villain of Ant-Man 3 makes sense, and a time traveling villain showing up post Endgame also makes sense. Yeah. Jonathan Majors is amazing. He's an awesome actor. He's also very, very handsome. I don't think Kang has ever been this sexy. And so him coming in is great casting news in general, great diversity, great talent, great everything. And there's a lot of rumors about what it means. But first, what do you guys think about this casting?
Jonathan Majors, I first saw him in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and he is a dynamite. He's a dynamite performer. Like, I think most people would know him from Lovecraft Country or The Five Bloods on Netflix. But the character that he plays in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, it's such a unique character. Mm-hmm. And knowing that he is going to be the antagonist, probably not just for Ant-Man 3, but he's going to be a major MCU antagonist, is very, very exciting. Yeah. And also, did we say who he is distantly related to?
Possibly distantly related.
Sort of distantly related to, not necessarily exactly distant. Well, that's what I was saying. So a couple big things people are excited about. Yeah. One of the things, as people are really, really excited about the fact that the Fantastic Four can now be a part of the Marvel Universe. Kang's actual last name is, Kang's alter ego in one of the time streams in which he has appeared, because Kang is a weird villain in the Marvel Universe, is that he has a couple different origins. But one of them, the last name is, I believe it's Nathaniel Reed, who is implied to be a distant relative. Richards, sorry, I was thinking Peyton Reed. Nathaniel Richards, who is a distant relative of Reed Richards, and Reed Richards' father is also the same name, Nathaniel Richards, and also is a time traveler. So there's kind of overlap there that some people imply could be intentional, some people imply could not, but it definitely is a road to the Fantastic Four. The other thing people are really excited about, and I think this is based on the things that Disney Plus and Marvel are doing, is more likely, is Kang is also the villain that brought together the Young Avengers in the comic books. Actually, quite literally, one of the characters in Young Avengers is Iron Lad, who turns out to be a younger version of Kang, who doesn't want to become the adult version that he's going to become because time travel is super weird. Right. But with Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie, having aged up in Endgame, she is now the right age to kind of become Stature, which is one of the Young Avengers. We've already talked about between Hulkling and Captain Marvel 2. Hulkling and Captain Marvel 2, Wiccan in the Vision and Wanda series, possibly a Young Patriot, which is the black young Captain America out of the Winter Soldier and Falcon series. They're basically, and Kid Loki potentially coming out of a younger, like kid version of Loki coming out of the Loki series. They have all the pieces in place to put together the characters that people who are big fans of the Young Avengers know. And if those Disney Plus series, Shannon, when is Ant-Man 3 slated to come out?
It does not have a release date.
Yeah. So all of these things that I'm mentioning, the Loki series, all of the series where these characters might show up, looks like they may come out first. So we might kind of get a lineup of Young Avengers, and Ant-Man in Ant-Man 3 may actually help bring the Young Avengers together to defeat Kang. Like, this is all rumored speculation, and Marvel being Marvel, there'll probably be elements of this are true, but there'll probably be brand new things that they mix in. But the idea that you have a time traveling villain coming in, the idea that the Young Avengers are gearing up, the idea that this villain could be distantly related to Reed Richards in some way, and even the fact that Kang has also tangled with the mutants, and in some versions of Kang has actually gone back to bring about apocalypse and stuff like that, there's a ton of potential for him to do this. And also the fact that the next Doctor Strange movie is called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It really does seem like one of the ways that we're going to open up phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is to play on the fact that the Avengers fucked with the quantum stream, the quantum realm, and time itself. And that when you fuck with time, time fucks back with you.
Yeah. Well, everything I was going to say, Michael just said, so completely nailed all of it. I didn't get my turn before he jumped in.
Sorry, I got so excited.
Everybody, please comment about how smart Mikey is. Here's the thing. I will tell you this.
Just write in the comments below. Michael is very
smart and should be president. No, everything you said before I said on the morning show yesterday when it was first announced, because it broke as we were doing the morning shows with me and Alex. And I was excited about it too, Mike. Everything you said, the time travel thing, that could be Aqualad. We could get this connection to Reed Richards, but also there's one more timeline with him where he goes back to 1901 and becomes the mentor or the professor of the person who ends up creating the things that caused the first Human Torch. So that could be another way that he gets into the Fantastic Four situation as well. Victor Timely, he's also the mayor of the town there as well. So So there's a lot to play with here, but the number one thing is, and what Shannon says is absolutely correct. This is a very interesting actor, and I want to say this correctly and get people to remove the last 20 years. But this to me is, I haven't felt about this way for an actor since a young Nicolas Cage. Jonathan Majors makes some interesting, unique decisions and strong choices as an actor within the pieces that he acts in. Even Da 5 Bloods, he is a completely different person than what you're seeing from the other actors in that movie. The other actors are playing straight, like you've seen these kinds of characters before, but Jonathan Majors is playing someone who's operating on 5 different levels. I wouldn't be surprised to find out this guy has like a genius IQ, because when you watch him act, I call his acting like jazz. He is acting in between the notes. Like in between the notes, he's finding his own music to dance to play to vibe to. And when you're watching him as an actor, you're just so incredibly impressed. You're just like, I didn't even think to do it that way. It wouldn't even occur to me to try to play it that way. And that says volumes about the little things that he does to make himself a great actor. I think I mentioned with you guys before, the way like Nicolas Cage, when Nicolas Cage hits the Warthog from Hell with that 2x4 or whatever that long plank is, when the Warthog from Hell gets up and starts walking towards him in Raising Arizona, Nicolas Cage starts to convulse, to throw up, and he's nauseous and he's scared at the same time. No, almost no young actor would have thought to throw that element into that character in that moment. And that tells you that's a person living the actual life of the character that he's embodying and bringing the humanity and the natural human reactions of a situation like that when you're afraid for your life as impending death is walking towards you. And Jonathan Majors does that less Black Man. He doesn't do 5 Bloods. He doesn't Lovecraft Country. He's an unusual actor. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that Marvel has chosen this guy to possibly be their next main villain in multiple movies in Phase 5 and mess with time. Marvel's going, look, we've got you this far. All right, let's see if we can take you into multidimensional stuff. Let's see if we can mess with you and take you into timelines. See if we can do all this kind of stuff. And so to me, I think it's absolutely fantastic that they're willing to go this bold rather than regressing all the way back and starting from scratch again. I like that they're going to mess with this. So overall, and yes, Iron Lad, all of that, Young Avengers, I can't wait. I have like all my Young Avengers right there on the bookshelf. I love Young Avengers. So to me, this all just speaks positively about what Marvel is going to do. So yes, they've been kind of pushing the back with DC this year, but they might start coming full bore next year and get ready for that.
It is funny, we talk a lot about Marvel, and when you talk about one of the weaknesses of the Marvel universe, a lot of people bring up the villains a lot of time, that the heroes are so great, and a lot of the villains in any individual movie. And they're interesting because when you take a lot of the individual movies, the villain of the movie sometimes isn't so great. But when you take it, when they do get it right, whether that be Loki or Thanos, or even going to the Sony movies, the way that they did with Mysterio or Vulture in the Spider-Man movies, like when they get it right, they really get it right. And I think that the casting here is right. I think you're right. I think he's a spectacular actor. The character is right. There's a lot that he can do. And so I really hope this is one where like they do knock it out of the park, that he really kind of brings the heat on it. And I think he will. So we are in a dry spell. We're all waiting for more Marvel excitement, but hopefully this means that on the horizon, there's some good stuff in the future.
Absolutely. All right. Nice. Let's take a quick break. And of course, we'll keep our eyes out to see what happens and more. Maybe we'll get an official announcement, and then we'll see some costume designs and maybe see him in the first shots of him on set. That would be fun as hell. So
I swear. I swear to God, really quick, if they Age of Apocalypse this, where you take handsome Oscar Isaac and put him in so much prosthetics, just put him in like a tight t-shirt, and like a little hat, like that's all we need. And some pants. Come on,
man, for God's sake.
I'm just saying when you cast someone that beautiful, let us look upon that beauty.
That's what I'm saying. I heard the same critique when I was in the Orville.
Oh, wow.
That is exactly what people say.
I want you to be consistent. You should have come out against Gamora being all green as well. Zoe Saldana, absolutely gorgeous as well.
You can paint him whatever color. She's gorgeous in whatever color she's in. You want to paint him purple, I don't care. Just don't cover him in so much prosthetics Poor Oscar Isaac. Anyways, that's fine. That's all I had to say.
All right, we're going to take a quick 5-second break for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, and we'll be right back right after this. And for those of you listening to us on the podcast feed, enjoy this word from our sponsors.
Do, 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 do.
Oh, okay.
Do.
All right. Assemble.
That's the first one we've gotten in quite some time. So there we go. All right.
They're usually harder to pinpoint with that with the dulcet tones of Shannon McClung.
Oh, you got to fix your ears, my friend. I am pitch perfect.
What is that? Chocolate milk? What are you doing? What are you, 12?
Coffee. It's coffee.
Oh, coffee. All right. Sorry.
It's coffee.
I don't drink coffee, so I don't know about that. All right. Well, let's get into our main discussion here, and that's the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer that dropped as we're recording this yesterday. Surprisingly dropped yesterday morning. There were some people who were clamoring about this in the Star Wars fandom for the last 2 weeks. Where's my trailer? Where's my trailer? The show's about to start. Where's my trailer? Well, you got your trailer, and it was well worth the wait. Not a lot was given out. Not a lot was shown. We do get the armor right at the beginning saying, you got to bring Baby Yoda back to its people, which of course made me go insane. We're going to have are we going to get a planet full of Yoda people? Then we get the Mandalorian on sea, in the air with X-Wings, in a boat. He's on a boat, and then you got the stuff with the ice planets, sand planets, Sasha Banks, possibly a Jedi, possibly Sabine Wren, who knows, in the cloak. We don't get any, and we got space wrestling. We got Cyclops dude. We got which is great. And but we didn't get any Ahsoka Tano. We didn't get any Cobb Vanth. We didn't get any Boba Fett or Rex. But we certainly got that vibe again. And we got Baby Yoda, hitting that button and closing his little tube there. But we didn't. And we also got Baby Yoda possibly speaking. So a lot was in this trailer, even though a lot of the storylines weren't necessarily surrendered by this trailer. So, gentlemen, what are your reactions to this thing as a kind of first trailer for this season that's coming on October 30th?
Well, I definitely feel, because I want to say it was a week or two ago that I certainly got duped. I got rickrolled. Somebody posted the Mandalorian Season 2 official trailer. I was and 2 weeks ago, that's when I was really sick. So I was really looking forward to that. So just to get rickrolled. But no,
is that a symptom of thumb disease? Thumb disease really just makes you susceptible to suggestion. You're like a thumb disease Jedi mind trick. Is that what that was?
My cognitive abilities were compromised. It was on the phone. It was a little screen. I was delicate. I thought this was a great teaser for what we're gonna see. I mean, I think it was a little under 2 minutes. You get to see the whistling birds. Everything about it got me excited. Now there's not a ton there, but the way we left the world, I was satisfied. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious just to get more adventures with these people. I mean, the desert planet, I have to think it's Tatooine because we know that Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth are going to come into play.
Why doesn't that apply? Well, every time there's a sand planet, it's Tatooine for this guy.
Well, but also a bantha-riding Tusken Raider.
All right.
I do think that when we see the Bantha, it's probably Tatooine, but not just because it's a sand planet. And then there's the other planet that is sort of sandy, dusty, but it looks more advanced than Tatooine. And so I don't think it's all Tatooine. Like, I think that they probably do go back to Tatooine more specifically because that's the one episode of season 1 of Mandalorian where we were left on a cliffhanger. And we also know that Boba Fett, who may or may not be appearing in this season, was last seen on Tatooine. So I think that Tatooine is not just I saw sand and I was like, oh, it's Tatooine. But I also wonder, and I know some other people have wondered this as well, if the more advanced looking or the more built out sand planet that we see could be Lothal from Star Wars Rebels.
Oh yeah.
Because what I thought was really interesting, I think Johnny, you said just now that the arc of the season is taking Yoda back to his people, but what the armor actually says at the end of season 1 is that he has to take Yoda to the Jedi.
So his people being the Jedi. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that we're not looking for like Planet Yoda. I think that we are sort of on this hunt for the Jedi, which I think is interesting because
Jedi again.
We're in the era of Star Wars right now where as was kind of made clear at the end of season 1, the Jedi are still kind of a myth. Like, people don't really remember the Jedi from the Clone Wars. And anything that they do remember is that the Jedi were either, not that powerful, or duped by the Empire, or complicit in the Empire, in the rise of the Empire. Nobody really knows the details of what happened. And even the fact that we're living in the era where Luke Skywalker is out there, right, even though we all know about Luke Skywalker, most people don't. I mean, he wasn't like paraded around by the rebellion. So, it's not like Mando can just take Baby Yoda and like fly to Endor and be like, I'm looking for Luke. He doesn't know. Right. So one of the things that I thought was interesting when you look at the planets, or what the seeming planets could be, is Tatooine. Obi-Wan Kenobi lived there for a long time. It's where Luke Skywalker came from. There's Jedi stuff there. If Lothal is one of the other planets, it's where Ezra was. It's where Kanan and the crew found him. There's a giant Jedi temple there. It's the reason why I don't think the ice planet is Hoth. Although it could be, because Luke Skywalker fought there or whatever, but I think it's more likely to be Ilum, which is where there's a giant place, a temple or area where young Padawans go to collect their Kyber crystals, and also the planet that eventually becomes Starkiller Base. Right. And even like the water planet that we see in the trailer, the boat that Mando is on seems to be populated by a couple Mon Calamari, but a lot of Quarrens, which are the two races of sea people that live on Mon Cala. And so there's a lot of discussion. These guys. These tentacle guys, the Quarren. They're the bad guys on the planet, and the Mon Calamari are the good guys. So a lot of people saw the boat and they said, oh, this could be Mon Cala, but other people are saying, could it be Camino? Because of the clones and everything. Right. And we know that that's a water planet. So, and we also know that one of the guys in season 1 who was about to experiment on Baby Yoda had a patch on his outfit that was similar to the patches that people were wearing on Camino, which maybe indicates that Baby Yoda is a clone, maybe not, who knows? But so I think that, although you guys are right, the trailer didn't give away a lot of information on what actually is going to be happening plot-wise. I do think that, given being a Star Wars nerd, and I'm totally doing what all nerds do right now, which is all of these planets could be none of those places. All of those planets could be completely new places and have nothing to do with it. But I do think that there might be something neat about a character kind of trying to track the Jedi and find out about the Jedi by going to a lot of the places that we know are important to the Jedi, but the average person living in the Outer Rim wouldn't know, which I think is interesting. Yeah.
Another one of those planets they mentioned, that there are people are rumoring, is that there's a shot there of the swampy world of Din Djarin, which is Sorgon, which is the swampy world that Din Djarin, which is Pedro Pascal's name, was from. So are we going to get that? Is he going to go home to that? So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot, and that's what you want. That's what you want out of a trailer like this, right? You want a lot of questions. You want some, I think this is this. I think this is that. Speculation, which is the fuel that powers Star Wars, is the speculative fandom. That I love that. I love that this trailer came out, and there's all kinds of different directions you can go with this thing. And I mean, people are already, because they don't know Sasha Banks that well outside the world of WWE, people are thinking that was Rosario Dawson. They're already making that kind of confusion. No, that's Sasha Banks, professional wrestler Sasha Banks.
Do you think she's Sabine, or do you think she's a new character?
To be honest with you, God, this might get me in trouble. She's good for a wrestler in terms of acting, but I don't think she has that Rock level of acting. Even Batista in the WWE had that Rock level of acting that you need to make that jump. And so I don't know. And Cena really is one of the biggest surprises to me. I didn't think he was going to do anything, but so, and I saw Becky Lynch on Billions and I was like, that's no good. So I don't know what Sasha's going to do. But Sabine is a warrior, and certainly Sasha is a tough warrior. She's Snoop Dogg's niece in real life. So, already people are speculating that Snoop Dogg can make an appearance, which would really piss me off. But like, this is all a possibility for it. But I would like someone a little more accomplished to be Sabine, in my opinion, as an actress. But then again, maybe they saw something in Sasha's audition or performance that they thought was perfect for the Sabine they want to put in to this Mandalorian, this live action version of her character.
And has she, and sorry if you already mentioned this, has she done anything outside of the WWE acting?
Not really.
So,
Sasha hasn't done much, so I don't know. Maybe they want to keep her a mystery and they won't give her much to do in this show until much later, because they took a chance on Gina Carano, and certainly that worked out. A lot of people do like Cara Dune, so maybe they think they can strike gold twice with Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I mean, when you have an actor's director working with you, and you can edit around you can edit around a bad performance,
right?
But also, if you have an actor's director who's really trying to connect with this person, I mean, I would like to think that for the most part, I liked the casting of season 1. Yeah. I would like to think that, knowing how much is behind this now, how much Star Wars has writing on it, that they would not be reckless with their casting decisions just to cast a wrestler who has some name value.
Right. And she's in 3 episodes.
I don't think
they must have seen.
Also, I don't think that. I just don't think. I mean, I know that wrestling is huge. I mean, this is not to take anything away from the popularity of wrestling, but I don't think you cast a wrestler who's a relative unknown to the acting community for like just the name value. Like, if they're doing it for a reason. Whether it's her fighting skills, whether this is a character who just really is required to just be a bad, like whatever it is, or maybe she's really just a fantastic actress that we don't know yet. I mean, also possible.
Yeah.
I do think what's interesting is kind of what I was saying about this idea that they've brought up this idea of the Jedi as these sorcerers that clearly Mando doesn't really know much about. We know that Luke Skywalker is alive right now because he's defeated Darth Vader and, redeemed him and everything. And he's off, according to Rise of Skywalker, training his sister. But like, we also know that Ahsoka is in here in some capacity. We don't know if it's going to be just a cameo or whatever, but we are going to see Ahsoka and kind of catch up with her. So I do find it interesting that we're going to kind of answer what was going on in this dual world of Jedi. Like, we all know that Ahsoka is not a Jedi. She's made that very clear. And also for Star Wars canon to make sense, she kind of can't be. But she is definitely Force sensitive. She's definitely going to play a role in this story, in leading Mando and Baby Yoda and the child wherever it is that they're going. Yeah. And if Sasha Banks is not Sabine, is she another Force sensitive person? Are there other Force sensitive people? Like, I do think catching up with what's going on with the Jedi and the Force in general and Force sensitive people is something that I'm really curious about discovering more about in this era of Star Wars.
Yeah. Yoda attempts to speak. The Baby Yoda, the child.
Where did that happen?
Speak in the trailer, or like somewhere in the middle of the trailer, attempts to speak. So I don't know if we're gonna see that some language.
That sounded like more just kind of baby babble.
Oh, did it now? It's 50 years old. I'm saying it could happen.
I mean, I know some 50-year-olds that sound like they're just babbling. So it's fine.
All right, that's it. I'm coming through the computer. No, but I really 1,000% was just excited to see more. And what she says is, and I think that's why I mentally went to bring it back to its own kind. So that can go both ways. Could be Jedi.
It could
be Yoda. So, but I take your point. I didn't think Jedi, but yeah, maybe possible.
Well, and they also go very deep into, to your point,
the Mandalorian.
You might be right. It could go either way, but it also very specifically does get in. She gets into in her speech in the end of season 1, and they kind of reference it at the moment where this maybe Sabine, maybe not Sabine character shows up, where they do talk about the history of the Mandalorians and the sorcerer race called the Jedi. So the Jedi, so like Yoda being Yoda, him clearly being a Force user, obviously, I think all of that is in play, and it's going to be interesting. The other thing that I just wanted to say that I loved about this trailer, and it's what I loved about Mandalorian season 1, and I think Mandalorian did a better job than the newer trilogy did with this, which is they take all the stuff that we love, that we know and love about Star Wars, but in Mandalorian, they don't just regurgitate it back to us. They give it to us in a new way, and we see things we haven't seen before. So whether it be Gamorrean, we all love the Gamorrean guards from Jabba's palace, and we've seen them as guards and we've seen them as security. We've never seen them wrestling in a ring before. That's really cool. Yeah. Or we've all seen speeder bikes, fly around trees in Endor or fly over desert landscapes. I've never seen a speeder bike like jump off of a ledge and go down the side of a mountain. And I'm like, well, that's fucking badass. And so I love that Mandalorian kind of takes this era of Star Wars where there was this transition. The Empire has fallen, the rebellion has won, but the universe is still this lived-in universe where a lot of people are just struggling to get by, and everything has that older kind of lived-in look. So even like the boat that he's on, whether it's on Mon Cala or Camino or somewhere else, like there's just this, we're seeing things we've never seen before. Like in no Star Wars movie have we seen them on this boat journey on a boat planet. And we see it. So I love that they give us the familiar of Star Wars. I mean, Baby Yoda is the ultimate example of this. Like Yoda is one of the most iconic symbols of Star Wars. He's one of the most beloved characters, but rather than just have Yoda show up, like giving us the child, it's like you've given us something we love, but you've given it in a whole new package. Yeah. And I just think that they're so good at that. And that's what makes me the most excited about this, that whether Ahsoka only shows up in one episode, whether it's Boba Fett or the Cobb Vance, Vanth, or, you know, whether we get Rex or some new clone or whatever, I kind of trust them at this point to give us enough of what we expect, but in a way that we're not expecting it.
Well, and to speak to one thing real quick that you could tell from season one is the production value. Like I thought the special effects in season one were really good, but the speeder bike sequence with Mando and the younger Cannavale, that was the one sequence I was like, this doesn't look awesome. Right. And it seems like that is something that they have now vastly improved, speaking about the speeder bike jumping off the cliff, and also just the inhabitedness of the world. It's like it's a little bigger. They've opened it up a little wider. You're starting to see more characters populating the world, which I think is only going to be to the benefit of the show.
And the fact that he is escaping both X-Wings possibly and TIE fighters, this makes it so much more interesting, right? Because what's the biggest thing? It's that people complain, it's the Jedi again, or it's good versus evil again. This is someone playing in between the lines. You know what I'm saying? This is people love the Gray Jedi because they understand that you can't be one thing fully. You might have to have some elements of the other side to be a part of who you are as a Jedi. So they ride that kind of middle road. You see the Mandalorian being this person who's riding the middle road a little bit to kind of like outwit or outfight both sides here right after the Empire has been defeated. Right after the rebels in the Alliance now is to figure out how to rebuild this galaxy. And remember, if we're talking about Ilum, that's the beginnings, as you mentioned, Mike, of Starkiller Base. So what's going on that planet that he may have to experience or confront or look at or get away from? What early early beginnings of the First Order are we going to see if that is Ilum? So there's a lot here that is exciting. And I agree with you, Shannon, that the production value looks so much better in this than it did in the first season. And that's not a negative. That's the Star Wars understand. Okay, we need to sink a little bit more money into this because now we see that it is a Game of Thrones type show, which is what John Favreau said he wanted out of season 2, the Game of Thrones vibe back when it was in its prime. So why not? Why not do it this way? I hope they go a little harder. I hope they go a little bit darker and not cop out with the sweet, funny moments all the time. I'd like a really hardcore, edgy, gritty episode. Just one would be great enough for me.
I mean, Star Wars is built on sweet, funny moments, though, too. I mean, you can't have one without the other. Like, I mean, you say that, but the most gift part of this trailer so far is Baby Yoda shutting his little pod when he knows things are about to get crazy. So, like, we all love our sweet, funny Star Wars moments as well. I think it's going to be interesting. I know that in the EW article that came out a week ago, where they released some photos, Favreau said that this was going to be a little bit more connected than season 1 was. I think one of the complaints of season 1 was each episode was kind of its own little standalone adventure for the most part until you got to the end and all the pieces kind of gelled together. And I think that this is going to be a bit more connected, according to what they've said. Yeah. And, one of the things we didn't see a ton of in the trailer was Moff Gideon, Giancarlo Esposito. With the Darksaber. And I know that he said in the EW article as well that he basically got to use that thing and was also playing. I think what you said about the Gray Jedi was interesting because in the way that Esposito talked about his character, he definitely kind of hints that he's sort of playing both sides against the middle or sort of luring Mando in a little bit. And we all know Ahsoka is kind of that gray Jedi. Like she's chosen neither side. She's living in, and Mando lives in that gray area. So I do think, to your point, that we have a world of Star Wars is a world of good and evil. We've got the rebellion, we've got the Empire, we've got the Resistance, we've got the First Order. We know our good guys, we know our bad guys. And Mando seems to be a show that almost embraces the middle and says, this is what it's like living in the middle when you live in a universe of black and white, good and evil. And I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, agreed. And we get vibrating axes. So I like that. All right, there we go. That's our, I do want to touch on this. I guess you could say it real quick. We only get one shot of Cara Dune and Carl Weathers' character. So do you think that was on purpose, considering all the controversy that happened with her over the weekend? Or do you think this trailer was already built and they just kind of dropped it as it was?
This trailer was already built. There's no way that they recut the trailer in the past week to be like, oh, Twitter's mad, let's cut her out. Like, I don't think so.
All right. I've seen some people online already saying that they're not going to come back to this. Certainly I spoke my piece on it on Twitter, but like I've seen some people, some Star Wars fans say they don't want to glorify this trailer or support this because of Cara Dune and some of the comments that Gina Carano's made over the last few weeks. But I've also seen people push back and go, well, I'm supporting Pedro Pascal and the work he's doing. So this is going to be interesting to see how, if this builds up, if this keeps gaining steam, and if people are upset. I'm going to watch it regardless of her comments. It's not that I'm patronizing it. I'm watching it because I want to see. Yeah, I have a Latino lead. That's what I'm focusing on. And my issues with Gina Carano's comments aside, I'm focusing on the male lead, and it's a Latino lead, which we rarely get in Star Wars. It's nice to have this and Diego Luna kind of holding down a little bit of as a lead. So I got to give support to both of these shows when that other one comes out too.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna. Gina Carano's comments were dumb. Her beep bop boop joke was obviously in poor taste and silly. I do think that. We've talked a ton about J.K. Rowling on the show.
Yes, we have.
As we're going to go down this road of talking about transphobic comments, J.K. Rowling is someone who is repeatedly transphobic.
Yes.
And when accused of being transphobic, writes a missive that is filled with every transphobic argument that exists to man. Yep. And her new book comes out with a character who is a man who dresses up as a woman and kills people. Like, it's like she came out as transphobic. She underlined transphobic. She bolded transphobic. And when she was pushed on it, she went to the font thing and made it font 65. Like, she is like clear transphobic. With Gina Carano, she did
claims she isn't. She claims she isn't, though. So that's the thing.
She claims she isn't, but it's like
claims she isn't. Yeah.
Well, but what I guess here's what I want to say. In the big scheme of things is we live in a super divided time. And I think that we're also getting to a point where everyone that we get upset by, or everyone who thinks differently than us, it's an all or none. Like, I either am on board with you and you're on our side, whether you be on the right or the left or whatever, or you're horrible, they should fire you, I'm not going to watch the show. And those are two really extreme sides. And I think that when you put J.K. Rowling up against Gina Carano, I put Gina Carano as, you're stupid and I probably don't agree with you. Yeah. And I think what you did was dumb. But I don't know that this rises to the level of, you are the enemy of all trans people everywhere. Right. And so I just think that, not condoning what you did by any stretch, but I do think that we need to sort of like level things out. Not everything is a level 10 emergency where we have to like batten down the hatches and kick this person out of everything and ignore everything they do for all things in the future. And some things are, and some things aren't. And I think we all just need to sort of take that beat. And I think the other thing that I was thinking about this yesterday that irks me a little bit is
we are getting into it now. Now that you're making multiple.
Well, I just want to say.
No, you don't get to just say, because now you're dropping multiple points.
Okay. My other issue that I just want to say is, everybody is so quick to jump on the I'm mad at her, she's transphobic. She's a transphobic bully bandwagon, that nobody is actually taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture of what trans people were trying to say to her, which is, you should include pronouns in your profile. And so I see all of these people jumping on the I'm mad at you, I'm not going to watch Mandalorian, Lucasfilm should fire you. But I don't see a lot of people going to their profiles as cisgender straight people and adding their pronouns. So it's like, what's the more important thing here? Condemning somebody, or actually listening to what be like Pedro Pascal, to your point? he's got his pronouns in his thing. And I'm not saying that everybody has to go do this. I'm not going to tweet at you and tell you you're bad if you don't put your pronouns up there. But like we're so quick to jump on the bandwagon of being angry about something, but we're much less quick to take the spirit of what the point was in the first place and actually make that a part of our lives. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. And I hear your point, but I think that's akin to saying if you don't put Black Lives Matter in your profile, then you can't really talk about Black Lives Matter. I think it's okay for you not to put the pronouns in because you don't want to put the pronouns in. And I think it's okay for you to go after somebody who makes fun of the people who do, because the people who are doing it for a reason, for a cause, to bring up the idea of equality for all, that trans lives matters. And the reason they come after Gina is because Gina's on a big platform now. She's in Star Wars. That is as massive of a platform as you can get. And she, along with the anti-mask post that she's put up, along with the smirkingly goading posts that she's put up over the last 3 or 4 weeks, she started to feel herself a little bit into the MAGA world. And look, she's got every right. She's got a platform. She's got every right to say what she wants to say, but she doesn't have every right to be free of consequence. She doesn't have every free right to not be called out. And so, if you want to smirk around and claim that you want equality, but then you want to go beep, bop, boop, fuck you. That's how I feel about it. Like you're playing both sides. You're trying to say with one side of your mouth that you're all about equality and unity. We got to be together. But then you think it's okay for you to make a joke of people who are putting pronouns to kind of be positive and support. And what did the president say in that RNC speech? People are tired of what word, what pronoun, whatever. So she plays into the red state stuff that is that shit. And so people see right through that. And go and call her out on it. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I want to clarify what I put in my tweet, because Mike and I had a text conversation. I wasn't saying she should be kicked off. I said Disney and Lucasfilms needs to come out against this stat, needs to come out and do something about this stat. And if she ends up in Kickboxer 7, so be it. You reap what you sow. It doesn't mean that I'm advocating her being kicked off. I'm saying they need to come out against these words. If the public themselves or if Disney themselves decides to take her off, then so be it. I'm not going to fight it, and I'm not going to think it's incorrect. You've got every right to take people on or take people off certain projects because of the things they do on their platforms. But I'm curious that they haven't said a word, because Disney is notoriously quiet about gay rights and about gay marriage until it's okay for everybody to talk about it. Yet they're cool with gay days at their parks. They're cool with these unofficial things that happen with their parks. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't smoke it and claim you didn't inhale. It just doesn't fucking work. And so that's my issue with it overall. And I think Gina rightfully got called out, and she played victim about it, which really pissed me off, and claimed that the bullies were coming after her, which is bullshit. Someone with 94 followers is not going to bully you with someone with 800,000 followers. That's ridiculous. So I just think it's playing. I think if you're going to say crap and then play victim about it, nah, dude, nah, that doesn't wash in my world.
Okay. I mean, I think that people on both sides of Twitter can be pretty aggressive. I think I get it. I get it on the opposite end. Like I say any gay thing and I get 95 tweets back at me about I'm a horrible person and I shouldn't work in kids entertainment and I'm going to go to hell. And that's what it is. And she says she's not going to put her pronouns up or puts the beep bop boop thing. And she doesn't have all of the, she doesn't have to done that. By the way, I'm not saying she's right for doing it. What I'm saying is there's a difference between on the levels of you're an idiot because you made a stupid joke, which was stupid. Like it was dumb.
Right. But then you get called out, Mike. The choice is don't play victim. The choice is I understand why people are upset. I made a stupid joke. I apologize. I do support trans lives matters. Much love to you. It isn't look at these bullies coming after me. It isn't liking the posts that are hardcore right-wing extremist posts. It isn't liking the posts that claim her to be a bully. You're sending a sign that you
100%. And I'm not. And I'm pretty sure based on her comments and her likes and everything else, like I would not get along with her at all. So I'm not on Team Gina here. Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is, and this is probably a really personal response from someone who's grown up gay and has spent years having conversations with whether it be people at my temple, people at my school, people at university, friends of mine, family members, like name the list, where you're constantly hearing things where someone makes a stupid joke or says something ignorant or says that their opinion about gay marriage or gay adoption or gay sex or gay anything, and they say something that is just either mean, meant to be funny, but actually offensive, outright offensive, ignorant, take your pick. And so I'm actually less concerned in the big picture. I don't actually care about Gina Carano, and I don't actually care what Lucas or Disney chooses. If Cara Dune blows up in an epic battle in season 2 and she doesn't return, like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be like, God, she was done dirty. Like, it's not about Cara Dune. It's not about Star Wars. It's not about Mandalorian. I think the bigger thing that I see is we as a country are so divided, and anytime we get upset about anybody, whether it is on the infraction of a very, very stupid joke that you should not have done, or I'm absolutely definitely a transphobic person and I've doubled down on transphobia, we sort of have the same response. And having grown up gay, and this is my personal thing, and I don't say that everybody has to do this because everybody's at their comfort level. I tend to try and be like, I'm going to try and act with a little bit of grace and just calmly remind you over and over and over again how to be a better person, rather than just cancel everything about you immediately and hope that eventually you turn around. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do that. I'm just saying that I see on both sides nobody doing that, and I just don't see where we're ever going to get as a country by going down that road. And like this, and this is what this made me think of. This is what this situation brought up for me personally as a gay man.
And I totally get that. And as a Latino, as a person of color, I've seen that racism that you're talking about through for being gay delivered to my parents for many, many years. For their accents, for their look, for their dress, for the way they spoke about something. I endured that for many years watching it as a child. So I've become very aware of that. So I agree with you. An innocent comment or a joke made completely in, like without thinking, certainly deserves grace, certainly deserves understanding. You double down on a joke, you don't apologize, and then I factor in all the other stuff you've said before, you don't get that grace. So I hear what you're saying, and if this was a one-off, I would absolutely be down with you. But there's multiple evidence that she is veering towards this other place, and I think we have a right to go, you know what? We don't want that person in our Star Wars. Now, I'm not saying I'm advocating for it. I'm saying I could see that happening. And I could see Disney making that decision possibly down the road, but it always depends on how loud the crowd gets before that happens. And if Disney even wants to, because, hey, Ezra Miller's still Flash, and we don't know what the fuck happened with him taking a woman by her throat and throwing her onto the ground. We still don't know what happened. And they didn't have the guts to bring him out to face this firing squad about what happened, and instead marched out the Muschietis on September 12th to talk about Flash. And so it's just like, there's these things these studios are doing with certain properties where they claim to be all about understanding and love and BLM and all that shit. And then and Me Too and all that shit. But then by the same token, when one of their big properties gets challenged, they kind of stay quiet and hope it'll blow over. So I don't understand overall why statements aren't being made here if you claim to be one thing and not the other. And it can't be a coincidence that I put that fourth or fifth tweet up and said, I don't understand how you can ask the lead of your show, who is way more qualified than you in your chosen field, and has a sister who is non-binary, a sibling who's non-binary, about pronouns, and then make fun. And then like an hour later, he follows me on Twitter. That can't be a coincidence. That's his way of maybe throwing shade at what Gina said or supporting what I said about it. So I just think that maybe they're seeing stuff on set that we're not seeing and hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I mean, like, who knows? Who knows what the relationships really are?
I take your point absolutely, Mike. This idea of having grace, idea of being more understanding. I get it. We are getting crazier and crazier. So you do make an excellent point, Mike. So it's something to think about for sure.
Also, add your pronouns to your profiles.
I'll happily do that if I want to do that, but I certainly won't make fun of anybody who does do that. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching this fun episode of the Geek Buddies. Really appreciate you all patronizing the show, downloading it, or listening to us on the podcast stream of the Geek Buddies. It's always a lot of fun to hear your thoughts, to hear your comments, and please leave those comments below. Shannon, what do we tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it's at NKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it's at The Rocha Says.
Thank you. And if you are listening to us from Hoth or Ilum or Jakku or Tatooine or Camino or Mon-Cala, here's a couple things that you can do for us. We definitely want you to, like Johnny said, subscribe below, hit like below, leave some comments below. We will hit you back with our thoughts on those comments. If you are listening to us on Anchor or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, definitely leave us a rating, leave us a comment, give us a ranking so that we move up, so that more people can find us. And the best thing that you can do is actually retweet us, post us on Facebook, send us to your friends, send out a text and say, have you checked out the Geek Buddies? The more people that listen, the more that we get to do this, and the longer that you will have to hear our opinions about everything from the Snyder Cut to what happens in The Mandalorian.
There you go. All right. That's everything that you need to know. Please share this as well everywhere you can, and give us some love as much as possible on your social media. All right. That's it. Thank you all so much for watching us. Don't forget, we also did a review for The Boys Season 2, Episodes 1 through 4, which may be out very soon. So look for that. As the show has gone weekly, we're going to start reviewing them in episode chunks so people can enjoy them. Or maybe we'll change our minds and review them episode per episode quickly in like a 10-minute review. We'll see, but look for our reviews of episodes 1 through 4 coming out soon. And then also Mike and I did a review of Mulan, which is out on Disney Plus. You can watch our review here on the Outlaw Nation channel. And then Shannon and I did a review of both The Vow episodes 1 through 3 and the recent episodes 4 through 7 of Ted Lasso, if you're watching that at Apple TV Plus. So watch that here on the Outlaw Nation channel, or download it on the Outlaw Nation Podcast Network. All right, that's it for us. Much love to all of you. This is the way. And we'll talk to you next time on the
Geek
Buddies.